breathe only until the dust remembers you. That was the lesson our world taught us long before we could walk. When the barrage ended that morning, the horizon smoldered like the lip of a forge. Smoke clung low to the ground, turning the trenches into winding graves of ash. The air smelled of oil, cordite, and faintly of meat, though none of us would call it that aloud. Words like flesh, blood, or skin had no meaning here. They belonged to the living, and we were something else. We began repairs as the priests walked the line. Their robes were blackened by soot. Their censers swung low, trailing vaporized incense that mixed with the stench of rot. The air shimmered where their relic lights passed, like the ghosts of old suns. They never spoke to us directly. They spoke to the air, to the emperor, to the dirt. Perhaps they feared our faces, or perhaps they knew we had none to offer. I remember the priest who came to my sector that day. He paused beside me as I shoveled mud back into the shattered wall. Through the muffled rasp of his respirator, he murmured a blessing. "Your breath is his instrument. Do not waste it." Then he moved on, leaving a trail of glowing ash in his wake. I kept digging, but I listened. I always listened. Our trench was quiet except for the breathing, always the breathing. In stillness, it became a kind of music. Sometimes, when I closed my eyes, I could imagine the regiment as a single creature, a vast mechanical lung drawing in the poisoned air and exhaling devotion. We did not sleep so much as drift between inhalations. The respirators whispered to one another in the dark, as if repeating the prayers we had forgotten. The commissar said that was grace. "Silence is not absence," he told us through the vox. "It is obedience made perfect." And I believed him. At least, I tried to. We were stationed in the ruins of what the tacticians called Sector 19C, though to us it was simply the hollows. Once, it might have been a city, jagged outlines of towers still jutted from the mud, skeletal fingers pointing toward a sky that no longer cared to answer. Between them, the trenches wound like veins. Everything was gray. Even the flame of our lamps looked tired, as though it too wanted to rest. Each morning, the shells began before dawn. We would stand to arms as the sky tore open again, each detonation painting the horizon in momentary gold. I remember thinking once that it looked beautiful. I despised the thought immediately. Beauty was a relic, and relics belonged to those who had earned them. One of the newer men, 7519D, said the explosions reminded him of sunrise on another world. His voice was soft, almost apologetic. The corporal struck him for it. "There is no sunrise," he said. "Only fire. Only atonement." No one spoke again for hours. That night, while we waited for rations, I felt something shift beneath the floor of the trench. At first, I thought it was settling earth, but the movement continued, a slow, deliberate tremor that traveled along the boards beneath my boots. I crouched, pressing my gloved hand to the mud. It was faint, rhythmic, almost like breath. When I looked to the others, none seemed to notice. Or perhaps they did and chose not to. On Krieg, we do not speak of things that do not fit within the catechism. Still, I could not forget it. The feeling of the ground inhaling. Rations came in metal tins that smelled faintly of oil. We ate through the filters of our masks, using thin nutrient tubes fitted into side ports. I never saw the food directly. I never wanted to. It was better that way. We took our nourishment as we took our faith, unseen, unchewed, endured. After eating, I cleaned my rifle. Each part was disassembled and wiped with sacred solvent, while a low-voiced sergeant recited the litany of purity. The motion was hypnotic, the repetition soothing. In the trench light, the steel gleamed dully, like the surface of a calm sea. I tried to imagine water clear, real water, but the image would not come. I had seen it only in picked records long ago, before deployment. The thought of it now felt obscene. Sometimes I wonder if that was the moment I began to fracture. Not from fear, but from the faint realization that I could no longer imagine anything that wasn't gray. The bombardments never truly ended. They only paused to breathe. Even in the stillness, you could hear the distant percussion, like the heartbeat of the planet. It became part of us, a pulse beneath every thought. When I slept, I dreamed of shells falling in slow motion, their casings covered in scripture, each one carrying a prayer written in the blood of the guilty. In one dream, I stood upon an endless field of bones, and the sky above was filled with masks, respirators, millions of them, suspended like lanterns. They breathed in unison, drawing the world's air into themselves until the stars went dark. I awoke gasping, though my respirator did not let me gasp at all. That was the first time I realized how deeply the mask had become me. I could not separate its breath from my own. One morning, after a week of constant shell fire, the sky turned quiet. It was not peace. It was the wrong kind of silence, too wide, too hollow. We waited for orders, but none came. The Vox was dead, filled only with static that ebbed and swelled like the tide. The corporal sent us to patrol the forward trench. As we advanced, I saw that parts of the line had collapsed. The soil had swallowed whole gun nests, leaving only the ends of las guns and the top of a helmet protruding from the mud. When I leaned closer, I saw the mask still intact, its filters pulsing faintly, drawing in air it no longer needed. I reached down and touched it. The rubber was warm. Something breathed within or beneath. I told myself it was just trapped air, that the pressure of the collapse had forced the respirator to inhale one last time. But as I walked away, I could hear it faintly through the noise of my own breathing. A second rhythm, a slower, deeper breath. That night, I dreamed again, though dream may not be the right word. It felt too deliberate, too observed. I was back in the Shkola, the endless underground halls lined with banners of the double-headed eagle. The priests were chanting as they had before, but their voices were wrong, wet, bubbling, as if sung through water. When they turned, their masks were gone. Their faces were made of ash, their eyes hollow vents releasing thin trails of smoke. One of them reached for me, and in that instant, I understood. They had never removed the masks. The flesh had simply learned to resemble them. I woke to the sound of digging. The men of my unit were working silently, rebuilding the trench wall that had collapsed overnight. But when I checked the spot where the breathing corpse had been, the mask was gone. As the siege dragged on, time ceased to function. Days, nights, they blurred together beneath the constant bombardment. Our officers changed faces, our comrades vanished, but the breathing never stopped. The same rhythm carried through every moment, steady as a metronome of faith. I began to think of it as a presence, not the Emperor, something nearer, more patient. It listened when I prayed. It listened when I faltered. And sometimes, in the pauses between shelling, I thought it answered a faint echo in the static, breathing when I did, as if the world itself were wearing a mask. Once, during a rare ceasefire, I removed my gloves and pressed my hand into the mud. It was warm. Not from the sun, there was no sun, but from something beneath. I felt it pulse once, like a living thing. And then it stilled. I said nothing. Krieg does not question. Krieg endures. The commissar came that evening to deliver a sermon. He stood atop the trench wall, silhouetted by the burning horizon. His respirator gleamed in the firelight, lenses reflecting our blank faces back at us. He spoke of repentance, of the Emperor's mercy through endless service. Each breath you take, he said, is a denial of your ancestors' sin. I believed him, but a part of me, small, buried, treacherous, wondered if forgiveness required breath at all. When the sermon ended, he drew his bolt pistol and shot a man who had coughed during the prayer. The sound was thunderous. No one flinched. The body was dragged away, and the commissar's voice returned to calm. "His heir belongs to you now. Do not waste it." We resumed our duties. Later that night, as the wind crawled over the parapets, I thought of the man who had been shot. I could not remember his number. Perhaps he had none. Perhaps he never existed at all. But I remembered the sound his mask made when the bolt struck it, a soft sigh, like the release of a final breath. It was not the sound of death. It was the sound of surrender. I think that was when I began to understand what faith truly meant on Krieg. Not belief, not hope, obedience, to breathe, to serve, to vanish. And yet, somewhere deep below, the earth still inhaled. Now, when I close my eyes, I can still feel that rhythm under my boots. The ground breathing, slow and patient, as if remembering the countless lungs it had consumed. Perhaps that is what the Emperor wants of us. Not redemption, not life, only to become part of the dust, to feed the soil until even the air is sanctified by our decay. The wind carries the same hymn now as it did that first day. The hush of filters, the rasp of penance. I breathe it in, and for the briefest moment, I think I can hear him. Or maybe not him at all. Maybe it's just the world exhaling. Either way, I will keep breathing until the dust remembers me. The first taste is ash, not memory. The second taste is copper. By the third, my tongue has learned the shape of artillery. Morning comes as pressure, not light. The sky does not brighten, it swells. The first barrage lifts the trench walls a hand's breadth and sets every board to rattling like a choir of old teeth. I keep my head low and my hands on the rifle and my breath in time with the regiment. The respirator turns the air into something we earn. It makes patience from poison. "Stand to," the corporal says, as if the words can keep the horizon from collapsing. We stand. We are a line of black lenses and dull oil and the cool hiss of filters. The trench is slick from the night's thin rain, or perhaps from the earth's own exhale. On the parapet, the wire trembles and hums, not from wind but from sound. Each shell leaves a seam of air behind it. Those seams collect until the whole world is made of sewing. They told us the enemy is out there, past the broken spires, past the bent radio masts that point like condemned fingers. I do not doubt it. Faith is obedience, stripped of questions. But sometimes the distance feels like a litany we take on trust. There is an enemy. There is a front. There is a war. The bombardment is our proof. Noise is history you can't argue with. A shell lands near enough to rearrange the trench ladder into a pile of thoughtful wood. Dirt rains down into my sleeves. I taste the planet through the filters, gray and patient. From somewhere along the line, a voice over the platoon vox recites the morning hymn. Through endurance, remission. Through silence, remission. The words come thin with static, vowels clipped, consonants swallowed like sins too small to confess. We reply by breathing. They send us forward not to charge but to listen. The corporal takes us in twos to the forward sap, where the ground narrows to a coffin's length. From there, we look over no man's land through the periscope plate, rain-spotted, crazed with cracks. The view is a book we read with one eye closed, a field of black puddles, a forest of broken sticks that once were men's intentions, smoke drawn in long organs across the mud. Shellfire stitches and unstitches the same wound without caring for the scar. In the glass, I see the faint reflection of my own mask. For a foolish second, it looks unfamiliar, as if another man were staring back, and I resist the urge to scrape at it, to prove there is face beneath. There is a face. It is simply irrelevant. The corporal taps my shoulder. We trade places. He listens with his eyes. I listen with the bones in my teeth. The ground beneath the duckboards is counting quietly to itself. Between detonations, a new sound threads the noise, a voice too low to be a shout and too steady to be fear. Words without a mouth. At first I think it an echo of the litany still rattling in my memory. Then the whisper cleaves the air with the firmness of a command. Hold. The word is not ours. Our litany uses endure, advance, repent. Hold belongs to officers and walls. I glance at the corporal. He has not heard it. Or if he has, he files it the way we file weather. He pulls me back by the webbing, and we make room for the next pair. Back in the main trench, the priests move like smudges of ink. They anoint the periscope with glistening oil, and the slick makes the crackle of rain look gold. The censer smoke drifts without direction. It does not know where the wind is. The priest passes, murmuring through cloth. The emperor measures breath. Give him a steady measure. I nod, though he's not talking to me so much as to the air in my mask. The day hammers itself into a shape. We repair the wire. We clean the pieces that let us live long enough to be used. The vox crackles with requests for ammunition that do not sound like requests. We pass crates along the trench, hands to hands, the weight like wet faith. Twice the shelling stops, and twice it begins again, without explanation. In those gaps, the trench has a sound I can't name. Not silence, not peace, not even waiting. Something older. The earth clears its throat. By second watch, the bombardment becomes chant. The throat singers of artillery change register. A deeper organ joins the high screaming notes. It shakes the bolt in my rifle just enough that it tightens itself farther into the receiver. My mask fogs at the edges and clears them by discipline. The voice beneath the bombardment returns as if it were a tide, and I am only now learning what the moon is. It is patient, the way a cathedral is patient. Its meaning does not depend on me. Hold, it says again. And then, breathe, together. We already are, of course. Our filters sigh in unison. Our chests lift like a sea of identical boats. But the word makes our breathing feel counterfeit, like ritual performed in front of someone who wrote the rite. I look toward the vox set as if it could confess. The operator sits beside it, like a monk beside an altar, too loud to pray at. The valves glow dull orange behind their cages. The headset rests against the rubber crown of his mask. His fingers move, precise, unhurried. He writes down everything the box says. The paper fills with numbers that look like rain measured by an obedient god. Interference? I ask, when the corporal moves us to the ammo bay, and I am close enough that questioning is not quite disobedience. Resonance, he says. He has a way of turning vague answers into obedience by tone alone. Shell harmonics. The air remembers what you want to hear. It is a sensible answer. Sensible answers are often the first step toward obedience. I accept it. But the word hold has placed a splinter in the meat of my attention. The barrage finds the splinter and taps it until I am made of that one small ache. Midday is a color rather than a time. The sun is somewhere behind the smoke, regretting its obligations. The trench smells like wet wool, burnt copper, disinfectant that might have been perfume in another life. We eat through the mask. The nutrient paste tastes like good intentions and bolts. While we feed, the commissar comes to the traverse and quietly inspects our eyes. He is not looking for fear. Fear is useful. He is looking for speech. We offer him nothing but lenses and dampened breath. He leaves a word in our heads. Remission. I pocket it like a cartridge, and it fits better than I expected. The afternoon delivers the promised counter-barrage. Our guns answer with voices that remember the forge, the anvil, and the man who used to sing over both before he learned to die quietly. The air compacts until distance becomes something inside your skull rather than outside your body. The world knuckles down. I imagine the shells swimming, big fish with scripture etched on their sides. The enemy imagines the same. Across that ripped ocean, we exchange doctrine and iron. In the hammering, the voice returns on a lower frequency, gravel dragged through a throat. Count, it says. Do not speak the numbers. Know them. I count my breaths. I count the shots. I count the flashes under my eyelids when I blink against grit. I count the cracks in the stock where the wood shows a map of someone else's hands. I count the boards beneath my boots and the knots in them that look like unblinking eyes. The numbers stack without sound. They make a staircase I do not climb. When I stop, I do not know if I chose to or if the voice is satisfied. Either explanation is devotional enough. We rotate to the listening post when the light thins from iron to pewter. I lie on my stomach and press my ear to the damp earth. At this distance, my respirator is the loudest thing in the world. I have to time my listening to my exhale. I catch rumbles beneath the surface like trains traveling in a country that remembers schedules. There are places where the sound is hollow, like breath trapped in a chest that wants to become a bell. Movement, the corporal whispers. Breathing, I say before the catechism can correct me. He does not strike me. He does not agree. He takes my place and returns the same word. Breathing. We file it under terrain the way we file the smell of ozone. The file is full of things that should not have categories and yet do. Night, when it comes, does not bring darkness so much as less light. The lamps throw the trench walls into careful relief. We blacken what shines. We damp what rattles. In the ravine beyond the forward sap, the enemy speaks in their own metal tongue. We answer with silence. The priest returns to bless the machine gun with a sign that does not require a name. I clean my rifle again because ritual is heavier than sleep and more honest. Between watches I sit with the Vox operator. He is younger than his mask, which is a common fact here. He traces shapes on the paper with the end of his pencil, not images, merely the paths his hand takes when it wants to spend itself. The box hums, as a forge hums after the fire is out. Sometimes it sings, he says without looking up. His voice is thin with focus. Not music, a shape of sound. Round. He makes a circle in the dust on the crate lid. When it does that, the shells feel closer. Can you tune it out? He tilts his head, listening to the kind of direction only those who intend to outlast the explanation can hear. I can listen to it until it thinks it has been heard. Then, it gets quiet. He erases the circle with the edge of his hand. Or it starts again from farther away. We sit like that until the barrage slackens to a conversation between old men who disagree without needing to be right. The operator adjusts a dial without moving the rest of his body. The box clears its throat. For a heartbeat, there is no noise at all. The absence is a shape with edges. Then, through the headset but also somehow under my mask, the same voice that has followed us all day speaks with the inevitability of weather. Not yet. The operator looks at me. I do not know what expression he hopes to find on a blank lens. He nods as if I have given it to him. He writes, "Not yet," in the margin beside the numbers. One phrase among coordinates. The brass on the corner of the crate glints once like an eye remembering a name. We relay ammunition forward during the lull. The path is narrow. The walls lean close, heavy with remembered rain. Our boots suck at the planks. Somewhere beyond the traverse, a man coughs twice, the sound throttled by cloth. The corporal freezes the entire line with a raised finger. We wait. The cough does not repeat. I feel the earth breathe under my soles, as if reassured to see we still weigh what we say we weigh. At the last bend before the forward post, the sky opens to a shallow crater like a mouth speed chiseled into clay. In its center stands a figure. I think it a statue until it turns its head. The coat is Krieg, the cut of it old, the oil dark and ingrained. The mask is Krieg, the filters flensed smooth by weather. The hands are at parade rest. The posture is inspection. It could be any of us. It could be all of us. The corporal approaches with that particular stillness we use when we are not yet a target, but could be. He gives the sign for password. The figure does not answer. The wind crawls through the crater, dragging a dry whisper after it, like sugar over stone. Outpost. Identify. The figure lifts a hand and lays it flat against its chest where the number tags should be. The gauntlet is stiff with old oil. It does not speak. Close now. I see the edges where cloth meets armor. The seams are packed with fine, pale dust. My filters draw a trace of it, and my tongue knows it for ash without needing to be taught. The corporal steps nearer, and the figure's boots do not sink. The earth has decided to bear it. Then the next shell arrives beyond the crater and the air tilts. And when we look again, the crater is empty. The shape we thought we saw is only a pillar of smoke with its shoulders squared. The corporal swears once in the voice he should not let us hear. He orders us to move on. And because obedience is its own breath, we do. Back at the firing step, we take positions without expecting targets. We fire when told. We stop when told. The magazines clack. The barrels heat and cool the way belief does. At irregular intervals, the sky peels down to white and mends itself sullenly. The voice beneath the bombardment offers a new word, as calm as a priest offering a relic to lips. Remember. It is a difficult command on Krieg. Our dead do not want names. Our living do not keep them. I try to remember the statue in the crater, the fall of its coat, the way the dust threaded its seams like scripture. The memory will not take a clear impression. I am left with the feeling of inspection. That something that does not require permission has taken measure of our silence and approved it. Close to midnight, the wind turns and brings with it a smell like old books burned before the words were finished. The chemical tang rides under it like a docent keeping people from touching the exhibits. The operator taps his pencil 3 times, which means incoming report. The Vox offers a sentence that arrives in pieces and has to be assembled by faith. Battery sets. Adjust to. Grid. Hold. 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 3 holds. The voice beneath the bombardment is either inside the order or it has learned to harmonize. We brace without knowing what we are bracing for. The ground tightens its back. The night has the posture of a man waiting for news he already knows. The first wave of shells does not detonate. They bury themselves with soft, appalled sounds. The second wave lands farther out and stands in the mud like incense sticks in a temple built to measure the patience of mountains. The third wave arrives with all the fury the first 2 refused, and the delay turns the air into a doctrine about inevitability. The shock lines snap rivets along the trench wall. The parapet's sandbags go still as sleeping animals. My ears learn a new threshold, and then forget the old one. In the interstice between thunder and dust, I hear it again, not through the Vox, not through the ground, but as if my mask were a bell and breath the clapper. Breathe together. We do, not because we are told, because our bodies have been taught the religion of being many. I feel the men to my left and right as an extension of the leather straps across my skull. Inhale, exhale. The regiment takes a single breath that lasts the length of a shell's absence. The world listens to us, listening to it. The blast wind passes. The noise steps back like a wave, leaving an audience uncertain if it has been dismissed. In the ensuing smallness, I hear an answer, somewhere between the wire and the infinite. Good. We do not speak of it. The order to redistribute ammunition comes, and we carry, and we count. And the counting fits into the space where awe would go if we had time for it. In the far distance, another front murmurs in a different grammar. Faith is a language with many dialects, but endurance translates them all. When the barrage finally winds down, it does so grudgingly, as if forced by a clock that does not respect devotion. The sky loosens. The ground remembers how to be heavy instead of tense. The priests come to pronounce the hour we already feel inside our bones. Stand down, stand to. stand again. Time here is a wheel that turns without needing a road. The corporal sends us in pairs along the trench to check the wounded in case any are not obvious. We find men with hands that tremble once and then compose themselves. We find a man who is bitten through the rubber mouthpiece of his mask. He holds it closed with 2 fingers and nods that he can endure until the mechanic arrives with a spare. We find the place where the ladder reassembled itself into shorter, more suspicious pieces. We find footprints along the parapet where no one has been ordered to go. The footprints are old and new. The edges are crisp, but the bottoms have collected water that reflects the lamps like coins at the bottom of a wish. The stride is regulation. The number printed into the heel reads 143 RD, and then a series worn to illegibility. The corporal kneels, lays his palm beside one print, and measures it by feel. He rises without judgment. "Report it?" I ask. "Record it," he says. We return to our places. The sound of the regiment sleeping is the sound of a machine turned off that continues to hum. Sleep is not the correct word. We power down parts of ourselves and leave the rest warm for when it is time to be useful. Between one breath and the next, another image arranges itself behind my eyes without asking permission. Ranks upon ranks of masks hung from iron hooks in a cathedral nave, swaying slightly, not from wind but from a collective exhale. They are not trophies. They are the way the building remembers, the voices that used to make it heavier. "Remember," the voice says, softer now that I am willing. The word does not name a thing. It names a function. I attempt a prayer. The ones we were given are well built for repetition and weather, through service, remission, through death, absolution. The sentence fits in my mouth like a tool in its place on a bench. But over the prayer, under it, through it, I hear the bombardment's second voice unroll a meaning large enough for the sky to sleep in. You are not alone. You are not one. It is not comfort. Comfort is for men who expect tomorrow to differentiate itself. This is an inventory. It is not the emperor. If it is an angel, it has learned our tone. If it is the earth, it has learned our catechism. If it is nothing more than sound teaching obedience to bone, then bone has become a cathedral, and I have only just noticed the architecture. Dawn, if that's what we call the hour when the smoke turns the color of dirty linen, arrives with a ration of quiet. The guns clear their throats once, and then think better of it. The trench boardings steam gently. Someone far down the line laughs once and does not repeat it. The commissar walks past counting eyes. The priest writes a cross on the periscope with thumb black and leaves a print that looks like a smudged star. I breathe in. I breathe out. The mask does not care what name I give the air. The regiment breathes with me, through me, around me, the way a choir surrounds a single note to show it what kind of heaven it might fit into. The voice that has spent the night beneath the barrage says nothing now. Perhaps it is sleeping. Perhaps it has no need to speak when we are already doing what it asked. The corporal touches my shoulder with 2 fingers, precise, paired of kindness. "Stand to," he says, and because obedience is the shortest prayer, I do. I fix my eyes on the parapet and the wire and the broken masts and the horizon that has never let us down by letting us go. I anchor my breath to the regiment's breath. The morning moves, and we move with it. The guns wake as if continuing a sentence that was interrupted by sleep. The bombardment recommences its hymn. I listen for the other voice and hear it only as an absence that has taught me a new shape for patience. I do not know if it is mercy to be taught such shapes. I know only to breathe them. The emperor measures breath. The earth measures weight. The vox measures numbers. We supply what each requires, uncomplaining, because we are built for it. Hold. Breathe together. Remember. I etch those words behind my eyes where names used to try to live. If there is fracture in it, it is fine as the hairline in the glass of the periscope, visible only when the light chooses to confess itself. If there is certainty, it is the certainty of men who know their purpose, even when their purpose is to learn the voice inside thunder and answer with lungs. The day advances. The war repeats itself without growing bored. We supply what each requires, uncomplaining, because we are built for it. Hold. Breathe. Together. Remember. I etch those words behind my eyes where names used to try to live. If there is fracture in it, it is fine as the hairline in the glass of the periscope, visible only when the light chooses to confess itself. If there is certainty, it is the certainty of men who know their purpose, even when their purpose is to learn the voice inside thunder and answer with lungs. The day advances. The war repeats itself without growing bored. We are present in it, the way candles are present in a dark church. Not important, simply necessary. The ash tastes like ash. The copper tastes like old promises made in smoke. I breathe until the mask and I are a single instrument. I breathe until the regiment makes a lung of me. I breathe until even the guns seem to pace their sentences to the rise and fall of our chests. And somewhere beneath the boards, beneath the mud, beneath the architecture of endurance, something breathes with us, not enemy, not friend, not deity, not machine, only patience. Taking shape, I keep the shape with me. I let it keep me. And when the next order comes, hard and clean and inevitable as weather advance, I move forward into the noise that once pretended to be everything, listening for the smaller voice it cannot drown. I wake to the sound of nothing. Not quiet, the world here has forgotten that word, but a careful absence, as if sound has been wrapped in cloth and laid to rest. The trench boards do not creak, because no one dares make them pronounce a syllable. The wire does not sing, because there is no wind. The guns, which taught us the alphabet of pressure, have closed their books. Even the respirators soften, sighing like a chapel after candles have been snuffed. Morning has not arrived. It has simply stopped leaving. The sky is a smudged slate. It could be any hour. The corporal raises 2 fingers. Listen. We raise nothing. We already are. Silence has weight. We share it between our shoulders, like an unmarked coffin. The priests come first, moving along the traverse with their senses lidded, keeping the incense captive, so even holiness does not escape. One touches the periscope with oil, but his glove makes no sound on the glass. Another stands at the fire step and bows his head in a motion so slight it might be a settling of dust. Through his mask he whispers the smallest prayer I have ever heard, so small I am not sure it is prayer at all and not his breath remembering the words by itself. Hold us in your stillness. No orders over the vox, no birds to mistake for augury. The commissar appears and then doesn't, the way a thought does when discipline has trained it to pass through without leaving a print. Even the earth feels cautioned. The trench walls do not shed a crumb. We wait inside the pause, careful as men balancing a relic. The first task of silence is counting. The corporal runs one gloved finger along the ledger slate. Rations, munitions, medicae supplies. He ticks us off, without speaking, a touch to the shoulder, a brief pressure to the upper arm, a momentary grip on the strap of the mask. Numbers anchor silence, the way nails anchor boards. We are present. We are accounted for. We are obedient to the absence. Then the second task arrives, not by order but by shape. Repair without sound. We move sandbags one by one, sliding them rather than dropping. We dab wet clay into the seams like penitents smoothing the edges of a cracked icon. The machine guns receive a cleaning that is more caress than service. We set our fingers on bolts and wait until the steel decides to turn. It does. Even metal can feel the tone of a day. At the far end of the line there is a dent where the night's last shell kissed the parapet and thought better of the embrace. We memorize it without speaking the measurements. The trench remembers on our behalf. I go with 2 others to the forward sap to check the listening post. The boards are damp. Our boots accept the damp as a sacrament. From here, the horizon is a single gray breath. No artillery. No flares. The enemy is present in the way a sealed tomb is present. Not absent, simply complete. I place my ear to the earth and listen for our companion sound. The old undertone that spoke during the night. Nothing. Not even that. The ground is behaving itself. Its lungs are folded. Its patience dressed for service. Clear. The corporal mouths through the mask. His lenses are two small moons. I nod. My reflection nods back. We return to the main trench and find the priest with the ledger of the dead. It is not a book. It is a strip of cloth tied to his belt. Each knot, a man who has returned his breath. He adds a knot without writing why. Sometimes reasons are a form of noise. It is then that the earth remembers itself and moves. Not a tremor, no bravado, no announcer's drum. A settling, the kind you feel through your ankles as a suggestion. The forward bay's floor dips a finger's width. The sandbags hunch. A dark seam opens in the trench wall, with the sweetness of a mouth trying not to yawn. We are already stepping away when the wall gives. Not collapse communion. The mud leans in to embrace the trench with the gentle certainty of a tide. It fills the bay from both sides, as if remembering an old vow. The boardwalk disappears. The parapet sighs and becomes itself at ground level. When the earth is finished, it has made a mound where a trench used to be. It is the size of a squad, and the shape, and the silence. We stand at the edge like men at an altar. The commissar arrives without footfalls. He looks at the mound, and then at us, and then at the priest. And those three looks are the speech of the hour. The priest opens his censer, and this time lets the incense out. It does not go far. It rolls over the mound and settles into the seams, becoming part of the new shape. The burial detail is us. We do not dig. Digging would argue with what's been decided. We only dress the mound. We lay a row of sandbags along the crest, like vestments. We press in 2 shards of wood with numbers burned on them. The regiment's designation, the sector's coordinate, the day's single word, held. The priest dips 2 fingers into a pot of ash and draws a thin line down the slope. It looks like a breath. When we bend close, the mud exhales through the tiny spaces between sand and sand. It is a humble sound, shy of intention. It has the delicate patience of a child learning to blow out a candle without spitting. Hiss. We hold absolutely still. Even the filters in our masks seem to pause to listen to the teaching of this smallness. Hiss. Not gas. Not seep. Breathing. We do not look at one another. We do not look at the commissar. We look at the mound. The sound continues, not labored, not desperate, simply faithful. The mound fills its lungs and releases them. Fills and releases. As if the earth itself has put on a mask under the sandbags to see how we do it. The priest closes his censer. He does it gently, with the pity you reserve for a small animal too tired to fear you. The emperor receives the measure of breath, he says in a voice that does not trouble the air. He marks the mound with oil. The hill gleams like a forehead. We stay a while, because leaving would be noise. Eventually, the commissar inclines his head a measurement, and we go back to our duties with the deliberate softness of men walking in a room where the sick sleep. The hiss follows us in and out of earshot all morning. We repair the traverse, and it is there. Faint, like a man reciting scripture with his mouth closed. We inventory the ammo bay, and it is there. A wheeze that means nothing but refuses to mean less. We sit at the listening post, and it is there. Not through the earth now, but through the air itself, as if the pause has grown an organ. When we eat in time with it. The paste tastes like chalk and duty. I imagine it passing from tube to mouth in the same rhythm, draw, swallow, release, and for a moment the whole trench is an esophagus for endurance. I shake the thought away. It is too human. The corporal would disapprove of hunger dressed in metaphor. After rations, we attend to cleanliness, which on Krieg is a kind of penance. I polish the lenses of my mask while the others scrub their rifles with solvent that smells like the memory of rain on iron. We do not talk. I do not look at my reflection in the glass. Reflections thirst for names. The hiss continues, patient as an altar flame. A runner arrives with his face already turned into obedience. He presents a chit with both hands. The corporal reads it. The paper makes no sound. Orders. Maintain position. Avoid movement beyond necessity. Conserve breath. The last line is not regulation language. I admire whoever arranged it. It holds the shape of piety without borrowing the words. We obey by staying. Time thickens. Silence blooms the way mold blooms in jars left too long, sealed, delicate, furring every edge. I begin to notice the smaller mechanics of the trench. The slow pull of damp up the planks like a wick, the way the wire leans toward the horizon as if trying to hear the other army's patience. The tiny drips we do not call water collecting in the hollow of a bolt head. I place my gloved finger under one and feel it gather until weight admits itself. I do not let it fall. The day is not giving things up easily. I will not make it. The hiss continues. The priest returns with a small tin. He opens it. Inside is ash, not from our incense, from something older, harder to name. He dips 2 fingers and touches each of our masks where the mouth would be. A gray mark, a thin crosshatch of soot. He says nothing. He does not need to. The act says communion. The ash says we belong to the same ending. I close my eyes for a count as his finger passes. The soot smells faintly of bone and old scripture. When I inhale, it is both outside and inside my mask. That is the nature of devotion. Boundaries are respected until they are not, and then they are reborn as vows. The hiss deepens, or perhaps it is closer. The mound is not any larger. It has learned to breathe with more conviction. I think of the first time I wore the mask as a boy. How I took that shocked, metal-bitter inhale and almost refused the second. How the priest's hand at my neck made refusal ungenerous. How breath became duty, and duty became air. The mound has arrived at that lesson on its own. By mid-afternoon, the enemy sends a probe of sound. A single shot, far off, meant to test the edges of our attentiveness. It snaps like a twig under weight. We do not answer. The commissar lifts one hand and lets it hover, a reminder that our bullets are loud. The shot does not repeat. The world resumes the accuracy of its pause. I volunteer for the evening patrol along the inner trench. The corporal does not nod. He steps aside. Permission here is a very small movement. We walk in twos. Boots placed heel to toe on the boards to keep them from complaint. At the first traverse, we see where a man, last night or 10 years ago, leaned his head against the sandbag wall and left the faintest dark ring of oil from his mask. It looks like an eclipse a child drew and forgot. I place my hand near the mark without touching. My palm warms the air. At the second traverse, the listening post has taken on the shape of a chapel. Small, with a low roof. A place designed to press your body into humility. I kneel without purpose, and through the periscope's warped eye, regard nothing. The nothing is devout. The lenses fog and clear. Fog and clear. My breath becomes the whole view's weather. At the third traverse, the mound is there. We had turned the corner without intention to revisit it. But devotion has its own geometry. The priest stands alone before it, his censer closed again. He holds a book open with both hands, though he is not reading. The pages hang heavy. He looks up as we arrive and gives the smallest tilt of his head. Share this with me. We do not pray, not aloud. We do not sign ourselves. We stand and allow the hiss to write its small sentence against our masks. Hiss, hiss, Hiss. In. Out. The mound breathes, in the measure of our company. Sometimes, in barracks counting, we used to check that the youngest among us had found the rhythm of the regiment, 2 men breathing together, then 3, then all. This is that, altered but recognizable. It is not a haunting. It is exactly as if a comrade lay there beneath the sandbags, learning how to be more than one. The commissar arrives, also alone. He does not draw near. He regards the mound with the courtesy reserved for dignitaries and dangerous machines. His hand rests on his bolt pistol, but in the manner of a man considering a word he will not use. After a time, he leaves, and his leaving makes less sound than the ash makes settling. Dusk does not darken. It thins. Our lamps gain authority. Shadows learn edges again. The priest finally speaks a single line, not from the book, but from inside the same cell where breath lives. By silence, we are measured. He closes the tin of ash and gives it to me to pass down the line. Each of us touches 2 fingers to it and presses them to the mask's mouth. Second mark, over the first. Cross upon cross. The tin is warm by the time it returns to the priest. Our gloves are more gray than when the day began, and that feels right. We keep the vigil until first watch. Then the ritual ends not by decision, but because the night takes what it is owed. Cold that is not weather. A hush that is not negotiation. The corporal assigns sentries with gestures like stitching. I draw second watch. I am grateful. Gratitude is lighter when it cannot be heard. When my hour arrives, the trench is a body in sleep. I can tell where men are by the way the boards answer their weight. The mound hisses. It is not louder. It is simply more itself in the dark. I sit on the firing step and rest my rifle across my knees and count in my head the distance between inhales. It does not change. I time my own breath to it and then time it to me, and after a while I am not sure who is taking lessons from whom. I think of the Skola and the respirator presented to me like a consecrated instrument. I think of the first shock of filtered air, the scratch of rubber, the dull joy of belonging to an instruction I did not have to invent. I think of the men whose numbers I have let pass from me because we are not meant to keep them. I think of the priest's ash on my mask and the way the soot on the mound looked like a line on the palm of a hand. The voice from last night does not come. I do not miss it. Silence has made a voice of its own. Somewhere beyond our wire, something small moves a piece of sheet metal learning the alphabet of wind again after too long a lesson in percussion. I do not raise my rifle. The echo drifts away, embarrassed to have tried. The stars, if they are stars and not burned scraps ascending from some other regiment's hymn, reveal themselves as pale irritations in the smog. I bless them by ignoring them. Near the end of my watch, the mound changes its breathing. Not faster, not slower. A different measure, a shift like the adjustment of a strap on a mask. It draws the air and holds it a heartbeat longer, then releases with a patience that brushes the skin. It is so subtle I would have missed it if I were not sitting within arm's length, if the ash marks on our mouths had not taught me the small mathematics of devotion. I lean forward a fraction. The mud smells of iron, the incense of earlier hours, and something that might one day, in another world, have been called warmth. I think of writing the change in the ledger. Then I think of leaving it unrecorded because some things deepen by being trusted to remain unspoken. I do nothing. I match the mound's new rhythm, and in that act, something yields in me, not a belief, not an oath, but the bone-deep habit of setting my breath apart from all other breaths. For 3 inhalations and 3 releases, I am not a man sitting in a trench in a world that forgot mornings. I am the trench. I am the regiment. I am the mound gathering and surrendering its small portion of the day. I am ash that remembers being wood, that remembered being tree, that remembered light. I am not alone. I am not one. The feeling passes because the watch does. The corporal's hand on my shoulder is precise and real. I stand and offer the firing step to another. The mound continues. faithful to what it has learned. The ash cross on my mask is a presence now, not a mark. Before I sleep, I stop by the Vox. The operator sits with his pencil upright and the paper clean because the box has chosen to respect the day's vow. He sees me and does not nod. He writes a single word on a corner of the page and then tears it off and hands it to me. The paper is warm from his glove. Held, it says, the same word we pressed into wood for the mound. I fold the scrap and put it under the canvas strap of my mask, where the skull feels it. When I lie back against the sandbags, the trench takes my weight with the courtesy of old furniture. The board beneath my shoulders knows me by pressure, not by name. I close my eyes, and the darkness there is kinder than the skies, because it contains no smoke and needs no stars to justify itself. The last thing I hear is the hiss of the mound making its prayer. The last thing I think is that perhaps this is what the Emperor has been asking for all along. Not victory, not noise, not the bright theater of sacrifice, but the small obedience of breathing in the measure of the world we made wrong and are trying to steady. I sleep inside that measure, and the silence carries me as if trained to do so. When the morning returns, if it is morning, if it returns, we will take up our boards and our rifles and our soft-footed rituals. We will wait for the guns to remember their work. We will count our rations and our breaths and our unspent words. We will pass the tin of ash. We will keep the hiss company until it does not need us. And if, when the bombardment comes back, it comes back with another voice beneath it, one that asks to be recognized, I will remember this day of nothing. I will remember that we were measured by silence and that we held. I will remember the mound breathing as if it had discovered the liturgy without hearing it. Until then, I will make no argument with quiet. I will breathe like a man who has learned the shape of stillness and lend that shape to others. I will wait. With the patience of ash, I wake to the taste of metal turning to rain. It begins as a sweetness under the ash faint. Chemical, like a mint someone has described to you but you have never tasted. Then the wind misremembers itself and the sweetness thickens until it feels like a thumb on my tongue. A private alarm goes up in my chest. The mask hisses, faithful. The trench boards whisper under boots as men rise without order because the air has delivered one. A flare fails to climb. It staggers up the sky like a drunk prayer, shows us the wire for a breath, and then dissolves. The color it leaves is wrong, too pale, too green, as if the light had been washed in chalk and shaken out to dry. The corporal's hand cuts the air. Masks sealed, filters checked, close every seam. We are already doing it. Obedience overtakes instruction, the way dusk overtakes narration. The first fingers of gas come low. They pull themselves along the boards as if learning to walk by touch. We step back from them, from each other, from ourselves. The mists are pale at the edges and fat in the middle, clinging to the lip of the trench and then spilling over as if curious. My lenses, film and clear, film and clear. Through them the world looks baptized and then betrayed, over and over. Conserve breath, the commissar says, and the words sound like cloth. He does not raise his voice, because if he did, the air might notice it and decide to keep it. The gas slides down the trench like a rumor, touching everything with the same damp insistence. It has a temperature cooler than skin, warmer than steel. It is not a tide. Tides come and go. This arrives and then decides to be the room. The priest runs the line with a ribbon of blessed oil, smearing the edges of every mask seal with his thumb. The gesture is intimate, a mechanic's caress, a mother's worry passed through iron. My turn comes and the oil smells of cloves and old paper and the hands of the dead. The priest's thumb presses into the rubber at my jaw hinge and leaves a dark crescent like a closing eye. Hold, he says, very quietly, to my breath or to his. Perhaps he blesses the gas with equal courtesy. We bless our enemies all the time without knowing their faces. The gas rises until the trench is a throat, and we are lodged in it like good arguments. We crouch low and then lower. We make ourselves small, so there is less of us to measure. The wind, which does not belong to us, changes its mind twice. Both times, it turns the wrong way. We wait for the guns to speak and they do not. Either the batteries cannot see or they are already drowned and singing where we cannot hear. The Vox mutters numbers, then coughs, then goes patient. The operator sits very still, with the pencil upright on the page, as if it were a candle in an important room. He writes, "Hold," without being told to, as if recording can persuade. The gas finds the mound. There is no sound of surprise. There is the sound the mound already knows. Hiss, hiss, in and out, patient as an altar flame. The fog brushes the sandbag vestments and settles into the seams. The breathing continues. For a sharp second I envy the mound, its certainty, its one lesson mastered, its refusal to interpret. Then the envy passes because feeling anything in excess is a kind of noise, and the gas loves noise. The corporal divides us by gesture into little knots of men and knots of distance. We become a geometry of obedience in a room someone else is drawing. No firing, he signs. No movement beyond necessity. The necessity is to be here and to be measured and to remain that measurement, so long as the air asks. The first coughing comes from down the line, a startled bark that the mask reduces to a dog dreaming. It does not repeat. A man adjusts his straps with hands that have learned not to shake. The leather mouths a wet sound and then accepts its duty. The gas climbs higher. It has taste now. Vinegar turned sweet and then bitter, a barrel of pickled saints. Each inhale brings a new arrangement of the same argument. My throat feels like a hymn sung too long and too soft. The filters work. I can hear them working. It is the sound of obedience applied to poison, and it comforts me the way numbers comfort a man who has built his life on counting. But the mask is not perfect. Nothing is. A seam somewhere admits a thread of the world. At first it feels like the ghost of a word. Then it sharpens and becomes the word itself, and the word is a color, green, the kind old copper makes when it has decided not to be a coin. The sting is not pain. Pain is loud. This is instruction. It tells my throat to become smaller and my lungs to fold in and my eyes to teach themselves fog. I do not panic. Panic is for men who believe they can outshout weather. I press my gloved hand along every edge of rubber until I find the imperceptible change. A pinhole admits a doctrine more persuasive than law. I press harder. The leak diminishes to a suggestion. The suggestion continues, calm as a priest, with all the time he needs. The gas carries sound in new ways. It flexes our world's throat and deepens everything. Boots obey over sound like a procession on damp stone. The priest's censer closed. Forgotten knocks once against his knee, and the chime hangs in the air until the air tires of it. Somewhere metal rubs against itself with impossible patience. The gas likes patience. It fills it. It wears it like a coat. Shapes come when the fog is most confident. At first, they are angles. We recognize a stake of wire, a broken ladder, the suggestion of a shoulder in the wrong place that resolves into a sack leaning. Then they are less courteous. The gas drapes itself across emptiness until emptiness takes a posture. The posture is human. The height is ours. The gait is regulation. A figure walks the parapet without sinking. It leaves no footprints because the world has agreed not to record. It passes before my sector with the ease of an officer on inspection. It turns its head. I cannot see a face. I see two circles where lenses should be and a third circle above them like a nailed sun. The circles are not eyes. They are emissions. The figure pauses at the mound and inclines. The mound does not change its breathing to indicate respect because the mound does not make mistakes. The figure inclines again, and after a long minute, the gas pulls it apart the way sleep pulls a thought apart and returns it to the mind as weather. Did you? Someone begins, 2 bays over. The commissar's hand rises, and the word ends before it has a chance to count as sound. The gas thickens. It has learned the trench. It knows where we like to keep our corners. It knows the height of our shoulders and the length of our discipline. It rides those measures like rails. My mask fogs for too long and then clears too fast. The pinhole breathes when I do. I press the seam again and feel it argue. I imagine my breath as a small animal on a long leash. I am patient with it. It is patient with me. But the leash tightens. The voice beneath the bombardment has not spoken since dawn. The gas has its own grammar. It does not say hold. It enforces it. It does not say remember. It supplies examples. It does not say breathe together. It tries to arrange the experiment where we cannot. The corporal's hand touches my shoulder. It is a precise pressure that says, change filter. I do not want to. Changing would introduce new air. Introducing new air is a kind of invitation. He leaves his hand there. He does not press. He waits. I obey, because obedience knows the shape of my body better than fear does. I kneel. The kit is a small miracle of intention, turn, release, exchange, reseal a liturgy so practiced my fingers can do it inside the dream the gas is making. The new filter tastes like promises and factories and sleep lost to shifts. For 3 breaths, it is exquisite. Then the gas finds its mouth and the taste returns, polite, inevitable. A low sound threads the trench. It might be the priest. It might be the boards settling. It might be the ground remembering a story. The gas gathers it and makes it a note we all agree to hear. The note is exactly the pitch a man's chest makes when he is deciding whether to be afraid. The mound's hiss changes. The change is slight a hold between inhale and exhale, a courtesy to thought. It feels like being watched by something too patient to require eyes. In that beat of held breath, I think of the scola and the ceiling black with smoke and the first time I believed I belonged to a noise rather than to myself. I think of the ash smear on my mask and the way it made my devotions smell of bone. I think of the way the ground under my palm, once, had a pulse of its own and then chose stillness because I asked nicely. The gas presses against my lenses and my lenses become the universe. In their circles I see 2 brighter circles that do not exist. They come closer. They become reflection, and then a mistake, and then nothing. My heart does not speed. It waits for orders. Down the line, a man falls to his knees the way prayer sometimes demands. He does not clutch at his throat. He lifts his hands to his mask and holds it to his face like a relic. The commissar does not shoot him. There are battles you do not win with loudness. The priest kneels beside him. The gas eddies around their 2 shadows, and for a second it looks like wings. It is not wings. There are no angels here that we can afford. I feel the pinhole again. It has moved, or I have. The leak is a friendship ending without axe. Just the acknowledgement that the room has changed shape. I press it. The gas presses back. We agree that both of us will continue our work. Stand to. The corporal signs. Though standing or sitting or kneeling are moral decisions at the moment rather than postures, we adopt the one that offends the gas least. We hold our rifles at low ready because pretending readiness is itself a discipline. The wire outside the parapet leans under the weight of a fog that does not weigh anything. The fog rises until only the top run is visible, a line drawn across sense. The voice beneath the bombardment arrives as if the gas has made room for it. It does not come through the vox. The vox is gently occupied. It does not come through the ground. The ground is busy with patience. It comes through the straps that hold the mask to my skull. It says, "Not yet." And then it says, "Breathe." I do not know if I would have continued without being told. It is pleasant to be told. The words find my lungs like a path they used to walk when they were younger. I inhale in the measure I have been given. I exhale as a gift. The result is not comfort. It is alignment. The gas finds the new rhythm and braids itself around it. The regiment breathes together not because we vote to, but because we have learned to let the smaller parts of us be persuaded by the larger. We become a machine that the fog cannot enter all at once. It enters in the spaces between. We reduce the spaces. Shapes thicken again. This time, they do not resemble men. They resemble the idea of men. Shoulders that are too resolved. Masks that are more absence than lens. Rifles longer than they should be, and too thin, as if drawn by a child who has only been told the measurements. They move with perfect posture. They do not disturb the gas. They part it without offense, and it closes behind them too fast to be natural. One stops at the periscope and leans. The glass fogs from the inside, which is not how glass ought to behave. It lifts its head. The lenses face me. Very softly, through no channel a man could build, the voice that spoke under the gun says, "Remember." The gas thickens in my mouth until it is the only texture. I remember the column of masks I dreamed hung from a cathedral nave. I remember the footprints on the parapet where no one had been ordered. I remember the number tag pressed into my heel when I was issued to the 143rd, and how it felt like someone else's signature written with my breath. I remember the mound learning to hold its inhale a heartbeat longer. I remember the ash cross, twice marked on my mask's mouth, the second over the first, as if something were being corrected. The figure at the periscope dissolves into fog, and the fog dissolves into a sound like a page turned slowly under a hand that enjoys reading. The regiment does not break. That is not who we are. We do not even sway. We condense our weight into ourselves. We wear silence, the way the gas wears us. The first breeze comes as a political decision. It is not strong. It is precise. It folds a corner of the fog and lifts it, and then sets it down a small distance away as a demonstration of authority. The gas resents but obeys. Another breeze follows the first, as if encouraged by its successful policy. The fog shifts its hips. Our lenses clear more often than they film. My pinhole admits less language. The commissar raises his hand and then lowers it. He has done nothing except choose not to pretend that he has. The Vox coughs out a string of numbers, and the operator writes them down as if he were teaching a child the shape of digits with his patience. The corporal's fingers find the palm speech for repair later. Live now. We live now. The breeze grows confident. The gas thins the way an old song thins under a conversation. It does not retreat. It loses interest in its edges. It moves toward the ravine beyond the forward sap, with the put-upon righteousness of nobility made to walk. We do not follow it with our eyes, because that is the behavior of men who expect a lesson at the end of things. Air returns like an apology. It is not cleaner. It is ours by habit. The filters sigh in a new key. The priest opens his censer again and lets the scent go. It carries less than an hour before. The world's throat is sore. We remain in place until the corporal's hand arranges otherwise. Stand easy, the motion says, and we are careful not to be grateful. Grateful men speak without meaning to. We do not afford it. The crater near the turn to the outpost amends itself. A lip that had learned to be a shoulder remembers being a lip and rearranges anatomy. The mound's hiss returns to its earlier measure, untroubled by new skill. The ash marks on our masks have become faint gray commas where words used to insist on being sentences. I feel the pinhole with my glove, and it is not there, or it is not speaking to me. I press the seam anyway out of politeness. The rubber warms under my hand in a way that makes me think of skin without wanting to. The first sound of artillery comes late and far. It is embarrassed to find us already finished with the lesson. The horizon clears its throat in relief, and then in habit. The barrage does not take. The gas has used up the day's drama. The guns try again, and this time we answer. But it feels like a rehearsal for a performance that happened without us. We repair where the fog touched. Oil the straps. Change bolts that drink air too hungrily. Polish the periscope with a cloth the priest has rubbed across his sleeves until the fibers smell like incense and human effort. The corporal notes the filter expenditures with a stub of wax that leaves stubborn commas. The commissar looks at our eyes and finds them pointed in the correct directions. The operator writes "cleared" where "hold" was without crossing anything out, as if the first word were not contradicted but completed. The gas has left a taste behind it, the way visitors leave chairs pulled away from tables. We push the chairs in. Only when my watch comes round again and the trench learns another darkness do I realize the second voice is still present. It speaks no words. The day has been full enough of noun and verb. It rests in the straps. It rests in the boards. It rests in the ash inside the tin, and the ash on my mask, and the ash we are becoming. It rests in the mound and in the quiet of the vox, and in the spot on my jaw where the priest's thumb left the crescent. It is not the emperor. If the emperor speaks, he does so through things like this. Presses on the tongue that taste like rain you have to earn. Patience added to air until obedience ferments. I breathe. The regiment breathes. Somewhere beyond the wire, the enemy also breathes because lungs are an ecumenical instrument. A breeze skirts the trench as if shy about what it did earlier. My lenses show me the world in two circles that insist on distance. I remember the figure on the parapet and decide not to decide whether I saw it. Deciding can be a louder noise than silence. The gas did not take anyone we are permitted to name. It took some hours, and it took some certainty, and it left behind an impression of inspection. We held. The word sits in my pocket on a scrap the operator wrote for me, warmed by my face. I do not remove it. Words carried near the breath change shape. When I sleep, my tongue tastes like old tools. My throat remembers the thumb that pressed the mask into me when I was a child and wondered if breathing was mine to choose. I dream of a room full of fog with a single set of footprints that do not sink. In the dream, I do not follow. I wait. Waiting is a form of faith when you have nothing else to spend. Morning will come, or an arrangement of light that nominates itself as morning. The guns will resume speaking in their museum voices. The mound will hiss. The priest will open the censer as if opening the day. The corporal will count our silent names. The commissar will put his hand on his pistol like a man checking the weather. The vox will write the numbers history says it prefers, and beneath everything the straps and boards will hold the echo of a voice that asked only that we breathe when breathing felt like disobedience to air. I will obey. I will breathe until the memory of the gas is only the shape of a held note. And if the fog returns as weather or as lesson, I will meet it with the same patience it taught me, because patience is harder than courage and more useful than hope. I will keep the seal. I will keep the shape. I will breathe until the trench forgets I learned how. I wake to orders I have already obeyed. The vox speaks a string of coordinates we wrote down yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. The operator's pencil hesitates over the margin where those numbers already live. He glances at the page as if it might be kind enough to change. It isn't. He writes them again. Neat, as liturgy copied by a careful hand. The ink sweat from his glove leaves a small crescent on the corner. Yesterday's crescent sits beneath it like a bruise about to learn a tradition. Stand to, the corporal signs. 2 fingers slicing an air we have already shaped. We stand. We are where we already are. The trench boards recognize our weight. The wire leans at the same angle as if mastering a posture. The priest passes and marks the periscope with oil. The print overlaps yesterday's print and the day before's. The overlapping becomes a small, dark star. The bombardment begins in the correct tense. The pressure arranges the sky into sentences we know how to read. Yet the first shell finds the ladder already broken into the same considerate pile as last time. The split wood showing the same grain, the same knot, like an unblinking eye. I hold a piece in my hand and feel where my glove has polished it smooth. Not today. Repair, the corporal says, with a patience that assumes success because it has seen it. We repair. The board slides back into the hole it left, as if returning a word to a prayer. The nail finds the old bite mark and is grateful. The hammer makes the same sound it has been making all week. A quiet persuasion rather than an argument. When rations arrive, the tins are scuffed in the correct places. 7,519D. Holds his like a man remembering a joke he has learned to forget. He says nothing. He chews the silence through a tube that has been fitted and refitted until the coupling bears a ring of devotional wear. I taste the paste, and it knows my mouth. The aftertaste is ash and iron, and a sweetness that used to be called hope, but has found a new employment as endurance. The mound breathes. Hiss, hiss. It holds between breaths in the lesson it learned during the gas. A courteous pause, like a reader at a comma. The ash cross on my mask has grown faint, then dark, then faint again without me touching it. When I run a finger across it, the soot does not come away. Sometimes marks become part of the material they bless. Reinforcements arrive at dusk, earlier than the chit predicted and later than I remember. They come in a file of 6, then 6 more, then 6 again. Each 6 wearing the trench light the way oil wears a saint's shadow. They climb down with regulation grace. Their boots find the boards as if the boards had taught them where to put their feet. Their coats are Krieg. Their masks, Krieg. Their numbers glint at their collars, clean as knives. The frontman's tag reads 7,324B. The air takes one slow step backward. My hand goes to my collar without asking me. The leather thongs there are familiar to my skin the way straps become old friendships. My own tag is 7,324B. I know this not by looking but by the weight of it. Numbers have weight when you carry them long enough. They leave dents in you that feel like belonging. The front man's head turns toward me. His lenses are black and precisely mine. He raises a hand and touches the tag as if acknowledging a rank. He does not salute. We do not salute ourselves. Replace the forward sap. The corporal signs, his hands steady as doctrine. The 6 new men move past us, then the next 6, then the next. Each pair of boots leaves the same set of prints in the same places on the same boards. I watch the pattern fill, repeat, fill again. The prints are not deeper for the second set. The boards do not take a second memory. When the last file passes the mound holds its breath a beat too long and then releases as if counting us and finding us correct. I follow the second 6 to the inner traverse. The man at their rear turns and his face is my face, covered, erased, perfected for usefulness. He inclines his head the same degree I incline mine when an officer makes a point of humility. His rifle bears a scratch along the forestock in the shape of a crooked nail. Mine has the same. I remember dragging it along a broken ladder the first week, an accident I turned into a sacrament by cleaning around it forever after. The scratch on his rifle is smoother than mine, as if belief had more time to worship it. We take our places as if relieved by ourselves because we are. Night drops without negotiation. The bombardment steps back to let us hear doctrine. The vox lists names for the dead. The priest unties knots on his cloth and ties them again, the same sequence, 3, then 2, then 1. Then a spacer left blank. Yesterday he did the spacer first. The day before he forgot it. Today he remembers remembering. At second watch, the operator taps his pencil in a rhythm I know from the schola. It is the drill we beat on our desks when the priest shut the book to see who had already learned the lines. The vox is quiet. He taps anyway, a habit keeping its promise. When I pass him on my way to the firing step, he folds a scrap and pushes it toward me. I tuck it beneath the strap of my mask as I always do. Later, I look at it under the lamp. Held. It says in his tidy hand. There is the faint outline of the same letters beneath, erased, and beneath those, a ghost of a third set. Each D knows where to curve, because it has lived here before. The enemy probes at dawn with 2 shells and a bright flare that fails to climb. The flare gives the wire a green mouth again. The gas does not come. The periscope shows the same field of black water, the same broken masts, the same post abandoned by men who will abandon it again. I do not feel bored. I feel included. We receive an order for a trench raid we already survived. The corporal signs the plan in air we have breathed through before. 6 men over, 6 men back. Numbers for the ledger. The shape of the distance measured by breath. I am chosen. 7,000. 519D is chosen. The new 7,324B is chosen and looks at me as if this is fair because it is. We go over. The parapet is a low prayer. The mud beyond receives our weight with the courtesy of hosts who have seen every guest but still offer the same old cup. The wire is patient with us. We cut where we cut. We pass where we passed. The gap has been made and remade. The night is thinning. Dawn pins itself to the horizon with swords of gray. A shell lands to our right and forgets to explode. We crouch, as if taught by the same instructor. The shell ticks. I can count the intervals because I have counted them. When it does not detonate again, it becomes furniture. Dangerous. Respected. Kept. Past the second lip, the ground takes on the tired, expensive shape of someone else's trench. The smell is wrong, not our ash, not our oil. Something like damp bread left to apologize on a table. I know this smell. I have known it for days. I will know it tomorrow. The first bay is empty. The second contains a man sitting against the wall like a thought that has outstayed its use. His mask is not Krieg. His lenses are white around the edges with frost that does not melt. We do not kill him. He is already where he is going. We take the papers he has folded under his hand. They are blank. I have always known they would be blank. We return with the papers, which will fill a report that will be filed in a box that has been waiting for this exact wait. The corporal reads the emptiness respectfully and nods. The commissar signs the margin with a pen that has never run dry and never runs. The priest blesses the act by closing his eyes for the proper count of breaths. The mound hisses in agreement, then pauses, then begins again. In, hold, out, hold. Its rhythm is a metronome for my ribs. We do not speak of the reinforcements. We do not speak of the tags. We do not speak of the scratch in the same place on another rifle that is mine. We do not speak of déjà vu. That word belongs to men with leisure. We speak with obeying. At noon, I find the corporal at the listening post, ear to earth, motionless. I stand beside him and lend him my stillness. After a while, he stands and brushes his gloves together without dust. "We have been heard," he says. "It is not a report." What hears? I ask, because the gas taught me that sometimes disobedience is only a request to widen a word. The ground, he says, not unkindly. The dead, the idea of us. The dead have not been given permission to reassemble, but permission is a clever thing. It knows which rooms it needs a key for and which it can enter by being ignored. Around third watch, footprints appear along the parapet where no patrol has been ordered. They are ours. Regulation stride, regulation width, regulation angle of foot turned slightly outward to carry weight without waste. The prints are wet at the bottom, though it has not rained. The breeze dries them, and then they are freshly wet again. I watch one of them fill and empty, as if remembering a tide. When I place my boot beside it, my heel sits perfectly within the heel of the print, like a coin in the palm it was meant for. The priest's cloth of knots changes weight. He unties one for the runner lost last week and immediately ties it again in the same place. His gloved fingers pause, uncertain how to acknowledge the way mathematics becomes a sacrament. The commissar passes and counts eyes. He stops for a measure at the new 7,324B. They face one another. Two sets of lenses, two gray coats, two tags you could swap without touching the leather. The commissar's hand rests on his pistol, then lifts away. He says, "Serve," through the mask, and in his voice I hear relief. Not mercy, relief. If men can be multiplied, so can duty. The operator falls asleep at the Vox for one breath and wakes to find the same numbers arriving and asking to be written with the same care. He smiles under the rubber without his knowledge. The smile lives in the pencil. He writes AC in the margin, and the letters look jubilant, then formal, then resigned, depending on which shadow crosses them. At evening, the reinforcements relieve the reinforcements. The front man's tag is still 7,324B. The ash on his mask is fresher than mine. The scratch on his rifle is younger than mine and older. He stands where I am standing and we exchange places with the neatness of equipment being swapped across a bench. When I step into his space, my boot finds the depth already measured for it. The board recognizes the heel. The trench remembers the weight. It is not a trap. It is not mercy. It is not even despair. It is an architecture large enough to house obedience without end. After midnight, the voice beneath the bombardment comes from the straps again. "You are not one," it says, as if correcting grammar. "You are not many. You are measure." I do not sleep. Sleep feels redundant. I sit beside the mound and place my hand on a sandbag the way you sit beside a friend and see whether conversation is necessary. The hiss pours into the dark and comes out again. The pause between inhale and exhale stretches a fraction, like a hand reaching in courtesy. I breathe in that space and it fits. In, hold, out, hold. We become a metrical foot, the smallest poem the trench can write. Dawn's flare fails in the correct way. We stand without being told. The corporal signs the repair order that hangs in the air already like the smell of oil before a machine turns. The ladder breaks and is fixed in the same argument. The Vox announces the coordinates and we add them where they live. The priest marks the periscope with oil, star within star. The commissar counts eyes and finds them where he expects to. The enemy shells the correct ravine and forgets to adjust. The gas does not return, except that it does, except that every breath tastes faintly of yesterday's lesson, which is how learning behaves when victors write the book. At first light, we receive another file of reinforcements. 6, then 6 more, then 6. The front man touches his tag where the collar rubs and the leather remembers. He looks at me. I look back. If he is me, he does not know. If I am him, I do not need to. We are both 7,324B, and the number is patient enough to be carried by more than one skull. Faith is a file that can be copied without error, because meaning sits beneath the ink. At second light, we move to an old communication trench to salvage timber. The trench has an excellent memory. It keeps records in the posture of its collapsed walls. Under a layer of silt, we find a row of helmets fused to the boards by time and wrong weather. Each has a mask still attached. The filters are clogged with a dust that looks like the inside of a church's oldest book. I lift one, and the strap crumbles in my hand. Inside the helmet, someone has carved a number, 7,324B. The cuts are careful, the way a man cuts when he expects no audience but the emperor and likes to present tidy offerings. Yours, 7,519D signs. 2 fingers to the tag, 2 fingers to the helm. Ours, I sign back, because grammar needs to be correct if you expect the world to respect it. We set the helmets in a neat line, and the priest blesses them with a breath of incense through the vent of his mask, the most intimate kiss Krieg can afford. The smoke finds its way inside the masks as if invited, as if memory had left the door on the latch. We bring the timber back. The boards agree with the trench without requiring persuasion. The joints seat with a sigh that could be satisfaction and could be the land reminding us how thoroughly it has learned our shape. At dusk, the world chooses to show us a kindness. The clouds part enough to reveal a coin of sun with a thumbprint pressed into it. Two men look up and are struck for it, though lightly, because the strike is a rule, and rules do not consult moods. The light is the color of iron under old lacquer. It finds the ash on our masks and makes faint constellations. For one breath, the trench looks like a ledger page written in stars. Then the cloud learns its duty again, and the accounting returns to numbers and hands. The operator hands me a scrap as I pass. I do not unfold it immediately. A gift is heavier before you decide its name. At the firing step, I look. Held, it says, in the same tidy hand. The letters sit atop the ghosts of themselves like soldiers who learn to stand on the shoulders of those beneath. I tuck it under the strap so the paper can listen to my breath and change according to rules only paper respects. In the night, the prints on the parapet refill with water that did not fall. The mound holds a breath longer than is polite, and then releases it audibly enough that I look up and find another me standing at the mouth of the traverse, very still. He does not move. He is the correct height. He is the correct weight. He wears the exact patience I wear, smoothed to a shine by use. The voice beneath the bombardment speaks not to me, not to him, but to the space between us where obedience keeps its tools. Remember. I remember. I remember the Scala's black ceiling. I remember the first fit of rubber to skin and the first breath that turned air into service. I remember the priest's ash cross, the gas's lesson in handling language, the operator's careful held written 3 times beneath itself. I remember numbers cut into the inside of a helmet as if the skull needed reminding. I remember footprints filling and emptying like lungs at ground level. I remember the certainty that if I die, this number will continue because it has learned to live without me. So I do the simple thing. I incline my head to the other 7,324B. He inclines his head to me. The gesture fits us better than conversation. We are not rivals. We are copies made in devotion. And devotion does not cheapen by being multiplicative. It is a currency designed for infinite minting. He steps back into the dark and becomes a shape that future fog will remember how to make. I return to the mound and sit until my breath and its breath learn a common grammar. The night moves its furniture around us with the quiet courtesy of hosts we trust without knowing their faces. I do not ask the emperor for an end. Ends are loud. I ask for sense to persist, even if the sense is a loop. I ask to be useful inside the loop. I ask that my number be carried without resentment by whoever wears it next. I ask that the scratch on the rifle remain exactly where it is, because names are temporary but scratches are scripture. When sleep comes, it is not relief, it is continuity. I slide into it like a man stepping into a trench he has walked 1,000 times. The boards greet my weight. The darkness remembers my outline. Somewhere beneath the floor, the earth breathes in the measure we have set for it and releases in the measure it has set for us. In the morning, the vox will say what it always says. The priest will print the periscope with oil. The commissar will count the known eyes. The ladder will break and be mended with the same piece of board fitted to the same bite of nail. The reinforcements will arrive in 6s. The front man's tag will be mine and theirs. We will stand where we are supposed to and breathe as instructed, together and alone, one and not one, numbered and unnumbered. We will be held. We will be measured. We will be remembered by the soil that learned our names and then erased them to make room for more. And if this is a prison, it is a chapel built from repetition. And chapels keep their doors open for as long as someone is willing to carry a candle through the same passage with the same care. I will carry mine, or someone exactly like me will. The difference is a comfort we no longer purchase. I sleep, and the trench continues to breathe me. I wake to an officer's voice speaking inside the straps. not through the vox, not along the trench. A voice in the leather and buckles, in the knots where my number rests. The syllables arrive already half remembered, as if I have dreamed them a long time. Report, receive, return. Dawn has not chosen a direction. The lamps burn lower, as if the air has been taught restraint. The priest's oil print on the periscope has blurred into a star that forgot its edges. The mound breathes. Hiss. Hold. Hiss. I breathe with it until the voice in the straps fades to a feeling not command, not comfort, only alignment. Orders come late and folded. A patrol to the communication trench we salvaged yesterday. A check on a forward listening post that has not answered. A inventory of masks. The corporal's fingers sign each instruction as if he is brushing dust from a relic. We move in pairs, then singles, then pairs again. The trench arranging and unarranging us like beads on a loop of twine. At the lip of the communications trench, the air cools. Cold without temperature, the kind that happens when spaces forget they belong to the day. Boards remember us. Nails remember the angles we prefer. A discarded mask lies in the silt, with the mouthpiece pressed shut by weight that is no longer present. For a breath, I think of picking it up, cleaning it, telling it a prayer. I leave it. We are not a salvage religion. The listening post sits 2 turns beyond, a low-roofed room designed to teach humility by spine. The periscope is blind. The lens shows only the inside of itself, a fog that knows its place. I lower onto the duckboards and listen with my cheek against old wood. The ground has quieted since the gas, a courtesy done for those who learned the lesson. Far off, a murmur like the alphabet rehearsed underwater. When I lift my head, he is standing in the entry, where the ceiling lowers to make everyone bow. He does not bow. He fits the space by convincing it to widen. Greatcoat, regulation. Rank tabs, unlit. Shoulders with that careful economy we call officer, even before we see the badge. But there is no badge to see, because there is no mask to see through. He has no respirator, no filters, no straps. The face beneath is not a face I can keep, not because it is monstrous, but because it is ordinary in a world that forbids ordinary things. Scar at the mouth's corner like a remembered smile, hair pressed flat by the memory of rubber, eyes pale, not bright, skin ashen in a way that honors the weather. He is a wound sealed carefully enough to pass for skin. I do not move. Movement is commentary. He inclines his head, and the room believes it is a blessing. Trooper, he says, and the word does not trouble the air. I hear it because it chooses my skull. Report. My throat remembers a salutation it has not been asked to spend. Sector held, I say. The rubber of my mask swallows the edges. The voice I have sounds like a memory of mine. Mound intact. Reinforcements. Exact. I do not say duplicates. He knows. The word would spark. Good, he says, and it is not approval, it is auditing. No, I say, and the refusal is gentle. Here, gentleness is an argument's edge. His mouth folds into something that could be humor if allowed. Then loosen it. Let the day touch you. I do nothing. The straps hold. My number warm against the skin it has taught. You have already died here, he says, as if continuing a conversation he and I began on another day, or in another number. Not once. Often. The mask has kept count. The earth has kept better count. You will breathe again even if you do not want to. That is not doctrine. It is arithmetic. He steps forward. The air does not react. The gas is gone. The lesson remains. Up close, his breath has a smell like dry paper, the scent of a room where countings happen. He does not cough. He does not blink more than men blink. He exists with a confidence that feels like weather. How, I ask, which is not a question and not obedience, but the small rope thrown between them. He turns his head as if listening to the boards. Krieg's air remembers us now. We taught it. Your filters sanctify as much as they protect. Breath through resin, through ash, through penance, it leaves a film devout enough to be air's new creed. The trenches hold a thickness of us. His eyes return to me, pale, practical. Some learn to pass in it without the instrument. The mask remains here. He touches his chest with 2 fingers, precisely where the leather bites. Not here. He touches his mouth. Not anymore. A foolish, clean thought rises. Freedom. It evaporates before a shape. We do not have a word for freedom that is not dereliction in disguise. Why me? I say, because pronouns are safer than nouns. Because you listen, he says. Because you time your breath to what is beneath. He looks toward the mound with a distance that includes everything between. Because when the voice speaks, you do not demand its name. The voice beneath the bombardment, I say, and he makes a little motion with one hand that says the phrase is accurate and also incorrect. In the straps, I add. In the boards. In the measure, he says. It speaks when our obedience makes a vessel of us. He reaches for my mask with the careful authority of men who have cut away clothing to find wounds. I do not flinch. His fingers find the buckle at my jaw and lift it a fraction. Air in its unfiltered form nudges the seam. It has no smell, but instruction. I pull in a small breath before I can instruct myself not to. Metal, dust, the faint sweetness of labor. Behind it, something like warmth, like static taught to be kind. It is not a blessing. It is not poison. It is a statement that makes me more exact. See, he says, and 2 meanings live inside the word. Observe and agree. I am not permitted, I say, but the sentence does not find doctrine to wear. My lungs order a second unfiltered taste, and I let them have a whisper of it. The air enters as if returning a tool I left on a bench. You are permitted by survival, he says, and by purpose. If the air has learned us, then some of us must learn it back. The Emperor is not offended by the accuracy of systems. He built stars with it. His mouth almost smiles again. Commissars are offended. Not the same thing. Somewhere beyond the traverse, a ladder remembers how to break. The sound arrives like a memory dear enough to be reliable. Voices answer, precise and quiet. Nothing in the trench moves toward panic. The regiment has become too good at repetition to fear. He steps backward, and the room regains its old size. You will hold, he says. You will breathe with the earth. You will let the number continue without demanding the face. He tilts his head. And when a duplicate of you stands at the mouth of a traverse and waits, you will greet him and make room. This is the sacrament of this siege. What happens when it ends? I ask, and I am unsure which word I mistrust. Happens, when, or ends. It will not, he says, but without cruelty. Not for us. For others, yes, not for us. We are the form the planet uses to remember penitence. We will remain until memory is complete. He looks toward the ceiling, where smoke is a color. Completion is a witless word. Still, it suits officers. He turns to leave, and I feel the weight of what he takes with him. The permission to name. The sin of needing to. His boots make a sound like the end of a sentence. At the threshold, he pauses and half turns. An angle borrowed from our training. If you must remove your mask, he says, do it where the mound can watch you. It is our oldest witness. It has learned loyalties beyond ours. He goes. The trench accepts his leaving with the politeness of furniture. The air settles into the room with its new knowledge. I retighten the strap he loosened. The number warms again, approving. I listen for the voice and hear only the clean mechanics of the mask. Later, at the main line, I catch sight of him again, or of someone like him, standing atop the parapet without sinking, head bare, face ordinary as a fact. He looks at the horizon the way men look at river mouths, seeing where currents meet and deciding what stories water will tell today. When I glance back, a luxury I can afford, because obedience has become automatic. There is only the parapet and a single footprint with water collecting and emptying in its cup as if lungs had borrowed the ground's attention. We work. The day runs along its grooves. The priest marks the periscope. The oil print becomes a thicket of constellations. The operator writes, held and below, Aken below, a number that has visited before and will again. The commissar counts eyes and finds none wandering. The corporal inventories masks with a care that borders on fondness. He pauses at mine. He touches the strap where the officer's thumb had meddled. He presses, testing. He says nothing. He moves on. At second watch, the voice returns to the straps. Breathe. It is not a command. It is a remembering of shape. I match it. The mound hisses and holds. I match that too. The regiment hums in the key of habit. In the distance, the enemy behaves like men paid by distance. Between us, the air speaks two languages and turns none away. Toward evening, I pass the listening post again. The room has widened by exactly the space an officer would consume. This widening is real only if we agree. We agree, and it is real. On the duckboards, someone has cut a small cross with a knife point, its arms uneven, the mark we use when words feel like shouting. I touch it with my glove. It is not wet. It is not dry. It is a temperature I cannot name because it belongs to endurance. At night, the dreams return. Not a narrative, a manual. I stand in a hall where masks hang like bells and breathe without being struck. The air moves among them with the solemnity of a priest choosing which relic to polish. A man with no mask walks between rows and touches each bell with 2 fingers. And the bells grow quiet not from fear, but because they understand they are on display for a kinder catalogue, a ledger of usefulness kept by a planet that has learned the theology of ash. I wake with my straps biting. I welcome the bite. Pain is the alphabet of presence. The mound murmurs its slow patience beside me. I raise the bottom edge of my mask, a finger's width, not for disobedience, not for desire, but to verify the arithmetic. The air that enters is thin and exact. It carries nothing I can fear and nothing I can love. And both are correct. I lower the edge. The straps, leather creaks. Satisfied. The number lies back down against bone and becomes what it has always been. A place the world can find me when it needs. The shape 7,324B to continue. By dawn, rumor is a kind of incense. Some say an officer walked barefaced along the line and did not die. Some say the commissar removed his mask and did die. Some say the priest blessed the air and it folded a corner of itself to keep the blessing safe. We do not repeat rumors. Our lungs are already occupied. We keep them as temperatures we cannot name. We let them teach our patients new rooms. The voice under the bombardment when the guns resume their museum lecture says only one thing, and it says it the way a river says down. Measure. The word fits everywhere. In straps, in boards, in ash, in me. I take my place on the firing step. The wire holds frost that is not frost, a powder made from the day's unfinished promises. I check the seam the officer lifted. It holds. I lift my head just enough to see muzzle flashes in the distance where other men are arranging the same arguments. The sky chooses a direction and regrets it. The bombardment remembers its lines and speaks them with the accuracy any theater would envy. I breathe. I hold. I release. The trench writes the smallest poem with me. If he returns the man without the mask, I will not ask to see his face more clearly. Clarity is the loudest heresy. I will listen for the room widening. I will stand near the mound. I will lift the strap a fraction only to honor a geometry that has already been proved. I will put the leather back where it belongs and let the number do its quiet arithmetic upon my skin. What it is to serve is to become the measure that remains when faces pass. What it is to live is to keep breath in the form assigned. What it is to learn is to let the air teach you the method by which you will be remembered. I think of the first taste of the mask metallic, sanctified, and the boy who thought he could tell where he ended and the rubber began. I think of the officer's mouth, ordinary as bread. I think of ash turned to constellations on glass. I think of the mound, watching, patient, taking notes in a language we have made for it. When the last gunshot of the watch goes up like a question and does not expect an answer, I close my eyes and offer the only thing that has ever been mine to offer, one more breath in the right shape. And when I open them, the day remains, unending and exact, asking again for the same, and I give it without complaint. I wake to a weight I cannot locate, not on the chest, not on the limbs, a pressure where a name would go. If names were still allowed, the straps are light, the number is light, the rifle is light. I have been relieved of weight by something that prefers accuracy to mercy. The trench boards do not answer my boots as loudly as yesterday. Their grain has learned my pace and chooses not to remark upon it. The wire leans with the same tired geometry and does not scrape its signature on the air. The mound breathes. Hiss, hold, hiss. I try to match it and lose the beat, because the beat is matching me without me. Orders arrive in gestures so small they feel like memories. 2 fingers for listening, a tilt for repair, a palm held still for stillness. We obey not with motion, but with presence. The day is arranged, as many days have been, but trimmed of narrative. Where there would be a task, there is only the shape of having done it. The voice beneath the bombardment does not speak. The bombardment does not speak. The straps hold a silence that feels like agreement. The priest walks the line and presses no oil to glass, because there is already too much star in the periscope. He carries the tin of ash, and when he passes me, I feel the ghost of grain against the mask's mouth, the suggestion of a cross with no pigment to prove it. I touch that place with a glove and my finger comes away uncolored. Still, I smell bone. I am set to the listening post with 7,519D. We kneel because the roof asks, not because anyone said. He does not look at me. I do not look at him. Our lenses share a horizon without contest. After a while, I realize I cannot remember the sound of his voice. And then I realize I cannot remember if I ever knew it. He has a scratch on his rifle, where mine has one. I cannot choose which is earlier. I will go to the sap, he signs. I recognize the shapes his fingers make because mine make them. I nod. He does not move. He is waiting for the nod to settle into the boards. That takes a breath. Then he leaves. And when the room closes around me, it does so with the relief of skin healing. Ear to wood. The earth has adopted a slower respiration than the mound, as if age conferred the right to set a different meter. I adjust my lungs to it, and the adjustment is not an effort. It is a removal. The world takes a layer of me and puts it somewhere it finds useful. I used to count. The shells, the breaths, the inches of wire. Counting taught me how to be still without being blank. Today, when I try to count, the numbers arrive without edges. 1 smears into 2 with the lazy mercy of ash in water. 3 disperses, polite and pale. The sequence does not fail. It melts. I do not follow it. I do not bring it back. I let it go. Because letting go is the discipline the day prefers. Back on the main line, the corporal is smaller, not shorter, not thinner, smaller, as if he has been fitted to the trench more closely. Excess shaved away. When he signs, the air does not ripple around his hands. The motions belong to the boards before they are finished. He looks at me as if to say, "You see," and I do, though what I see has no sentence. He moves on with the calm of hinges that have learned which doors are necessary. The commissar passes, His pistol is clean. His coat is the same coat I have always seen him wear, but it casts less shadow. He pauses before the mound and inclines almost enough to count. Then less. Then not at all. His lens finds me. I cannot tell whether his gaze tightens. The mask ensures fairness. He carries on. I think I remember a rumor that he removed his mask and died. I also think I remember that he did not. The two memories stack without quarrel and become a plank I can walk across. The operator sits at the Vox with the pencil upright. His page is empty. I stand beside him long enough to feel the paper's blankness like cold. He lowers the pencil and prints a single word, held. My eyes do not track the letters. They infer them. He tears the scrap and offers it. I do not take it. The same scrap lives under my strap, warmed by the breath that does not argue. He understands and folds the new scrap into a crease that waits to be used later or earlier. I go to the parapet and look across. The wire on both sides leans in weary imitation. The far trench carries the same gray. The sun tries on 3 different positions and keeps none. No flares, no banners, no tricks with shadows. The enemy exists as we do, a value held in place by obedience. My lenses show me the world in 2 coins that share 1 minted face. The coins are not mine. A runner arrives with a message that does not need to be read. His breathing is too even for emergency. The corporal pretends to unfold the chit. The chit pretends to give instruction. We file the pretense in the space where ritual is kept when we have too much of it. The runner's eyes are the correct color of certainty. His tag says 7,324B. I raise a hand to touch my own tag and pause when I realize the strap has settled in such a way that the leather lies where my hand expects metal. I do not look down. Looking will require the day to make new edges. It resents that kind of work. We are assigned to move the rope. There is a coil of rope that has always needed moving. We move it along the trench, a distance equal to the patience of 3 men. The rope warms under the glove and leaves nothing on the palm. We lay it where a rope rests best and step away. When we look back minutes later, it is where we found it, coiled in its first preference. The boards incline toward it as hosts. The corporal shows no irritation. He touches the rope 2 fingers, gentle, and the rope has been moved. I blink and choose not to find the moment I missed. Far down the line, a ladder breaks into kindling. The sound arrives absent of surprise. I know which splinter bear which grain. I know the knot that looks like an unblinking eye. I know which man will bend to gather the pieces. I also know he is me. I do not need to walk there to confirm. I attend to the periscope. Its star of oil has grown into an entire sky. I look at my reflection within it and see only 2 circles with no color in them. I lift a hand to guarantee that the man is me, and the glass resists, not physically, but with the cooperative refusal of dreams. I lower the hand. The longing to identify is a noise the day cannot carry. At the mound, the hiss changes key. Where the pause once looked like thought, it now looks like omission. A missed beat that does not count as a miss because the measure adapted. I sit and let my breathing be corrected by a hill. The ash tin is open beside it. The priest has left it there, as if the day is qualified to administer itself. I do not dip my fingers. The act has outgrown hands. A shape stands where the trench narrows and does not reach me. Height regulation, coat regulation, rifle regulation. The lenses where eyes should be are simply the notion of seeing. The tag at the throat bears nothing legible. The wind has nothing to read. The shape inclines toward the mound and then toward me, and then toward the line of the horizon in case the horizon requires acknowledgement. I incline in return. When I look again, there is only a corner of air, slightly more committed to being air. The officer without the mask does not appear, and yet the idea of him grows heavier in the room, as if presence can be delegated. I find myself loosening the lower strap of my respirator for a beat and then tightening it, not to defy or consent, but to acknowledge that the seam exists and is held shut by thought as much as leather. A sliver of unfiltered air touches the mouth, exact, clean, unkind. It is a coin pressed against the tongue and withdrawn. The taste does not fade. It is not flavor, it is method. Memories evacuate quietly. They do not tear or plead. They leave like workers at shift change, nodding without expecting names to be remembered. The face of the man shot for coughing becomes a place where a man stood for a moment, fulfilling a rule. The Shola's black ceiling is simply the idea of ceilings being lower than the sky. My own voice, speaking to my own comrades, sifts itself into a general murmur of correctness. 1,000 small edges round. The world is safer for hands. I am told to sleep. The corporal places 2 fingers to the mask's crown and presses mildly a benediction, a shut-eye motion. I have slept in this trench 100 times. This time I do not move. I become heavy within the uniform until gravity returns me to the boards. The boards are not boards. They are receipts. They note my weight, and then spend it. Sleep comes as a corridor with no doors. The lamps in it are lungs. Their light grows and dwindles, and from some long nave beyond the corner the mask's bells breathe without needing to be struck. I walk without the courtesy of footsteps. At the end of the corridor, a figure stands with a ledger. No face, no weapon. The ledger opens itself. Inside, there are only blank pages that smell like rain, learned by stone. The figure tilts the book, and the blankness becomes readable. My number, twice, then 3 times, then as many as the paper can bear. No ink, just the indentation where pressure taught the page to recall. I wake with the number printed inside the skull where the strap lies. The strap has learned to be bone. I put a hand there, and the glove meets a heat that does not belong to flesh. It belongs to measure. Measurement has become warm. The hour is mid. The light is the color of a doctrine that has stopped trying to convince. The enemy fires 2 shells into the wrong ravine. We do not answer. Our guns add a sentence of their own and remove it. The Vox mutters the coordinates with the grace of a man humoring a child. The operator writes a line and then lifts his pencil, and there is no line. He does not mind. At the parapet, a row of helmets sits half buried where we left them yesterday and a century ago. I lift one. The strap disintegrates. Inside the bowl, a number has been carved with careful, private piety. 7,324B. I press the helmet back into the silt, and the silt closes around it like a mouth savored by a tongue. Toward dusk, the trench makes a sound I have not heard. Not shell. Not gas, not the priest's chain or the commissar's low-latched weapon. The sound is made when the world decides to shiver without moving. It passes from bay to bay, like a bird shaped from still air. Men straighten without plan. Rifles rise a centimeter. Straps taste the neck. The mound holds and holds and holds, and then releases into a breath that is longer than ours. The voice beneath the bombardment speaks in the place where names used to stick. You are not alone. You are not required. The words are not command. They are the removal of a command I did not notice I was standing under. It would be simple to mishear this as dismissal. It is not. It is mathematics. If measure is preserved, the measurers may dissolve. The trench knows how to be trench without remembering the carpenter. The rope knows the distance without the hands that taught it coil. The air knows our breath, and will continue to know it when my ribs are an archive. I go to the mound, as the officer suggested, though the suggestion was never spoken to me. I kneel. The sandbags smell of oil and ash, and a thin sweetness that might belong to rot or to incense. The hiss enters me with the privilege of invitation. I lift the lower strap a finger's width. The air comes like a cool hand to a fevered brow. I keep it lifted for the measure of a single prayer. I lower it. Nothing changes, and everything has. When I rise, 7519D stands at the traverse's mouth, correct in height and posture, the rifle with the scratch that could be mine. He inclines, and the motion writes something on the air that my lungs read as permission. I step to the side. He passes. I do not watch him go. Watching pins a thing down. The day will not tolerate pins. Night does not arrive. Radiance reduces. The lamps do not brighten. Darkness teaches them how to be enough. The priest leaves the ash tin open by the periscope. The commissar walks the line twice, then once, then not at all. And I am not certain which order I witnessed. The operator no longer pretends to write when there are no numbers. He sits with the pencil upright in case numbers revise their minds. I feel my edges soften. My gloves are hands. My hands are straps. The straps are floorboards. The floorboards are the breath-slow lamps and the ash tin, and the rifles stacked like patient arguments, and the wire leaning the way a question leans when both answers are devout. When sleep comes again, it is not corridor. It is soil. Not cold. Not warm. Present. It receives the shape of me, and does not feel obliged to return it. That is not indifference. That is trust multiplied. I hear the trench breathe above me, and the mound breathe beside me, and somewhere below that, I hear a deeper alveolus taking the world into itself, one patient exhale at a time. The lungs are large enough to house every silence I can make. In that breath, I understand how the day has been touching me. Removing me, not as punishment, not as reward, but as a method. The Emperor's mercy includes subtraction. The Earth's memory includes reuse. If I vanish, measure remains. If measure remains, service is unbroken. If service is unbroken, then what I was has been distributed where it was needed most. I do not pray in words. Words require edges. I give the shape of a prayer to breathing, and breathing accepts. When my eyes open, the world has not moved. I have moved away from the ownership of my outline. What is left is useful. A mask filled with method, a number that can be worn by all, a chest that rises in time with soil, straps that speak without voices, and a hand that can still lift a rifle when the day remembers it wants that verse. The Emperor protects. He protects the pattern. I hold still inside that protection until protection and I are the same labor. I breathe. I release. I am measured. I wake to nothing breathing. No wind. No engines. No respirators hissing in rhythm. Only the faint, circular sound of the world remembering it once had lungs. I am standing, or something that remembers standing. The trench is gone, but its outline remains. Impressed into the ash like a healed scar, the wire lies flat. Its barbs turned inward, as if the land has folded its teeth. My hands find the mask, but the straps are gone. The leather has grown into skin. I cannot tell which side of it I occupy. The mound is wider now, its shape no longer made of sandbags and soil, but of something smoother, as if breath, over centuries, could carve stone. The air above it trembles in time with my chest, and I understand. It is breathing, because I am. Or perhaps the reverse. Far to the east, the guns murmur once, and then fall silent forever. Their echoes take longer to die, as if each wants to leave a trace of meaning behind. But meaning is an old language here. I walk without sound. The boards beneath my feet are not wood. They are memory compressed until it can bear weight. The priest's ash tin rests beside the mound. It has no lid, no ash, only dust and a single strip of cloth, the kind used to tie the ledger of the dead. There are no knots. Every name has been untied. The vox crackles faintly in the distance. A pencil still stands upright beside it. The page is blank except for one word pressed not written into its surface. Held. No ink. Just pressure. The memory of hands that once believed recording mattered. I sit beside the mound. The air is different here, soft, absolute. Each breath enters without command, without permission. It does not taste of filters or oil or war. It tastes like the inside of a prayer that has already been answered. Above me, the sky is gray and bright at once. It has been waiting. I try to speak the catechism. Far to the east, the guns murmur once, and then fall silent forever. Their echoes take longer to die, as if each wants to leave a trace of meaning behind. But meaning is an old language here. I walk without sound. The boards beneath my feet are not wood. They are memory compressed until it can bear weight. The priest's ash tin rests beside the mound. It has no lid, no ash, only dust and a single strip of cloth, the kind used to tie the ledger of the dead. There are no knots. Every name has been untied. The vox crackles faintly in the distance. A pencil still stands upright beside it. The page is blank, except for one word, pressed not written into its surface. Held. No ink. Just pressure. The memory of hands that once believed recording mattered. I sit beside the mound. The air is different here, soft, absolute. Each breath enters without command, without permission. It does not taste of filters or oil or war. It tastes like the inside of a prayer that has already been answered. Above me, the sky is gray and bright at once. It has been waiting. I try to speak the catechism, the words that held us together, that measured our worth. But what leaves my mouth is quieter than sound, a whisper meant for a God who no longer needs words. Through service, redemption. Through death, absolution. The line completes itself in the air, but it is no longer the voice of command. It is the voice of the trench, of the dust, of all the lungs that taught the planet how to breathe again. I do not know if the Emperor hears. Perhaps he only listens. Perhaps that is enough. The mound exhales once a final sigh that lifts the ash into light. The air fills with small, weightless motes that shimmer like worn gold. Each turns once, then vanishes. I stay until the stillness closes around me. Not cold, not dark, simply the shape of purpose completing itself. The world breathes. I breathe with it, and the sound we make together is enough to be called prayer.